Take a breath, grab your coffee, let's talk. So, we just spent a week with Job, and honestly, I'm still processing it. Here's what keeps hitting me. Job never got the answer. We spent over a week watching him lose everything, watching his friends fail him, watching him sit in the ashes, screaming at God for an explanation. And when God finally showed up, he didn't explain. He asked questions instead. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Does the hawk take flight by your wisdom? Job wanted a courtroom. God gave him a creation tour. And somehow, that was enough. That messes with me. Because I want answers too. When life falls apart, I want God to sit down and walk me through it, step by step. Here's why this happened. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how long it'll take. But Job's story says, you might not get that. You might get presents instead of explanations. You might get, I am here, instead of, here's why. And you're going to have to decide if that's enough. Then there's the restoration. God gave Job everything back. Double. Twice the wealth. Complete healing. 10 more children. 140 more years. But here's the tension I'm sitting with. Not everyone gets that ending in this life. Chris in our story, he got the double restoration. Cancer gone. Business back. Family restored. But what about the person listening right now who's still in the ashes? Still buried under loss? Still waiting? What about the parent whose child never came back? What about the person whose health never returned? What about the business that never recovered? Here's what I think Job is saying. God's restoration is real, but it's not always immediate, and it's not always in this life. Sometimes you get the Chris ending, miraculous, tangible, overwhelming abundance in the here and now. But sometimes you get Job's faith in the dark. Even if you kill me, I'll still trust you. And you hold on to the promise. One day there will be a resurrection. And that's when the restoration is complete. Not a spiritual platitude, a literal resurrection. Bodies raised, losses restored, death undone. That's the hope, and maybe that's the point. Job's story isn't about explaining suffering. It's about trusting a God who's big enough to handle your questions, your anger, your midnight confrontations, and believing when you can't see it, can't feel it, can't understand it, that he's still good, that he's still working, that the ending isn't written yet. So where does that leave us? Tomorrow we're moving forward in the timeline. We're leaving Job, restored, vindicated, surrounded by family, and jumping to a guy named Abram. God's about to call him to leave everything, walk into the unknown, build a nation from nothing. And here's the connection. Job learned to trust God through suffering. Abram's about to learn to trust God through obedience. Different tests, same faith. One last thing before we go. If you're in the ashes right now, if you're the one with unanswered questions and friends who don't get it, and a God who feels silent, Job's story says you're not doing it wrong. Faith in the fire looks different than faith in the sunshine, and God doesn't demand you pretend everything's fine. He just asks you to hold on, even when it doesn't make sense, even when the answers don't come, even when you're barely breathing. Hold on, because the God who met Job in the whirlwind, he's still showing up in storms. Tomorrow, Genesis 12-16, God calls Abram, and everything changes. Rest well, you've earned it.